But I remember, that he spoke to me about his memorial service, and he it was amazing. Our crematoriums are a little different for yours, but our crematoriums, which is where someone has a cremation, you actually go to the crematorium, to the service, and the body is there with you. And I remember this one service that he designed, where at the very end of the service, these wonderful, very, very plush, elaborate velvet curtains came round in front of the coffin and enveloped the coffin. They were red, and so they kind of had some imagery with them. But I remember that when the final words were being said, these big, huge curtains would come around, and the final song was "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend." Do you know where this is going? So these huge red curtains would come around in front of the coffin, and suddenly out from behind these curtains came this huge hand with a huge diamond ring on, waving goodbye to everybody. You see, we've revolutionized funerals. I remember another one. There was another young man. He had a thing about Harley Davidson bikes. And in his life, he'd never owned one, but he knew that he wanted one, but his body was now completely frail. And so we designed this whole service where we would have this huge Harley Davidson bike come into the chapel, and it would be present as like his lasting testimony. And we spoke about the whole memorial funeral service, and we talked about what he wanted and all the music, and he planned it all out to the last letter, but he wouldn't tell me what his entrance song was going to be. He wouldn't tell me. He said he wanted that to be a surprise. Not just for me, but for everybody else who was a part. He said, I just want to have at least one piece of this service that's just me. And so we the young man died and passed away, and so we were making all of the funeral arrangements. We got the Harley Davidson into the chapel, it was the time when we'd stopped singing hymns, but we'd started putting stuff on CDs and having music that was appropriate to people's lives. And in our country, we actually carry the coffin in on our shoulders. We have pallbearers. We don't put them on wheels, and we actually put them on our shoulders. And now I understand why you don't do that here. Yours are made of metal, but they're really heavy. But ours are made of wood. And so the pallbearers are there, and they've got the coffin up on their shoulders. And I walk in front of the coffin because there's some words that are read as we go into the chapel. And so it makes me laugh just thinking about it. But just as we go into the chapel, we put the first CD on. No one's heard what the music's going to be. It's the Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz singing, "Hey ho, the wicked witch is dead." See, we can laugh in the face of death. We've revolutionized memorials. We've really queered this experience of death. And sisters and brothers, as we sit in this place this morning, I think one of the things that we can offer to life and offer to this world is that we can offer our lives. And all of them, not lives that need to be full of drudge and misery and feeling as if the weight of the world is on top of us. Even though for some of us it may be right now. But we can offer ourselves in life and to live lives to the fullest, because for once, especially for those of us who were around in the AIDS era, we had to face our own mortality. Death was not about something that happened when you were 70 years and 10. Death was happening all around us. It was happening right in our midst. And for some of you who are younger and can't remember this, I would give thanks for that. Because many of us who are sat here this morning do remember it and do remember the pain and are still in that pain, because many of us haven't yet grieved the fullness of that pain and what it means. And there are folks in our congregation this morning I know who have lost loved ones this weekend or this week and are facing memorial services and funeral services this coming week. But I want to take courage this morning that we don't believe in a God that's dead. We believe in a God who's alive. And a God who is opening up the gate of glory to every single one of us. And that gate of glory is not something that we have to wait for. It's something that happens right now as we make a decision to live life to their fullest, to live life in the care of one another, and to live lives acknowledging that this is for all the saints. Not to remember them 100 years later, but to remember them now. To remember the people who are sat next to you this morning and say, they've been a saint to me. Someone who wrote you that loving email and said, I know you're going through a hard time right now, but just hang on in there. That's a saint. That's someone who's not just so self-consumed about their own lives that they couldn't care less about somebody else. That's about someone who has really got their act together and is reaching out to one another and saying, yeah, I know that there's stuff going on in your life today, and I just want to be there for you. And I know that there's stuff going on for me, but there's somebody else who's looking out for me right now. This week, one of our congregation, they're not present this morning, so I'm not telling tales, but one of our congregation was the victim of domestic violence this week. And I want to tell you how grateful I was that at 10 o'clock at night, that person chose to call me and say, I don't know what else to do, but I needed to reach out. I knew that this was not a good thing. And so Carlos and I were able to go and pick him up and bring him home and take care of his wounds. And not just look after him, but also look after his partner. Because it's not about a victim and a non-victim, it's about really caring for the body of Christ and not making judgments. Because not one of us is in that house or in that room. And it's not condoning that behavior. Not condoning it. But saying that if we truly want to be a church, that we need to lift up the weak and to hold those who feel as though they've got nothing left to offer. Isn't that really what we should be about? For all the saints. It's for you and me acting as though we're saints. For you and me acting as though we're already there. It's for you and me really reaching out and laughing when people try to put us down, or people try to kill their leaders, or whatever it is that we try to do to one another. And say, no,